So anybody who has looked into things, you know you've come across good old big Bill Ayers, and I don't mean good in a good way. Yeah, Bill Ayers, who was part of Weather Underground Group back in the 60s with his wife Bernadine Dorn. They blew up stuff here in America. They hate America. He refers to himself as a small c communist. Yes, he's a Marxist. They're been very open about this. They don't feel bad about blowing up buildings back in the 60s. Bernadine Dorn, his wife, did spend some time I think, the federal prison. Okay, but she got out, and then good old Northwestern made a special position for her. Yeah, because they couldn't just hire her on as like a teacher because of the rules there. So they just made a special position. This is how disgraceful Northwestern and University of Illinois Chicago is. Look, I know many people graduate from these places, so I'm not trying to say that all the students there are bad. But look, the people that they're going to put in charge of DCFS, juvenile justice, anything to do with state wards, they will come from these universities. They will come mostly from University of Illinois Chicago, because Bill Ayers was very involved in controlling the education system way back in the day. And Snoops is going to tell you this part I'm going to say next isn't true, but it is true. It's been confirmed. UIC wanted to hide the records for many years, of course, of the true relationship between Barack Obama and Bill Ayers. But no, Obama's his basic presidential campaign was started in the living room of Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn's house in, what is it, Hyatt Park? I can't remember. Some, fancy downtown part of the city. Yeah. He was a professor of like the education department at University of Illinois Chicago. Again, the nurse that came from University of Illinois Chicago psychiatric department that came over to the hospital I was at came from there too. And they were oversight over the DCFS system. They were over the state wards that are in psychiatric hospitals. So it's like the worst kinds of animals have their hands in everything. And then they have the Chicago Tribune, who just is bitches for them and does the bidding to protect these monsters, okay? And none of these people should have any say about education, especially a former terrorist. But that's what garbage University of Illinois Chicago is. I mean, they were garbage to me a long time ago after I saw what their nurse that had taught forensic there did to a 15-year-old state ward. My opinion of them was already low, and it was already low because I saw what jerk-offs their oversight was over the kids in the state system. They're useless. But then when I learned how he is, Bill Ayers, well, he retired from University of Illinois Chicago. That's how much University of Illinois Chicago and Northwestern care about this country. At the Chicago level, those are the red flag universities. On the federal level, it's your Yale and Harvard. But all your universities, they all do the same thing. And he was directly tied to education, radicalizing children in elementary school. So they already had him radicalizing the college kids, and that's just spread like an infection in all the institutions. This is why you have students from these universities, by the way, that will march with terrorist organizations. I mean, Hamas is a terrorist organization. So when they march and they're yelling for gassing the Jews, it's a direct result of the elite universities putting garbage like this in place. And most of the teachers are the same way as he is. He just happens to be proud of his criminal behavior, his arrest record. His wife went to jail, he didn't, but both of them said they're not sorry for what they did. So we shouldn't have people that hate America or that call themselves small c communists as controlling anything to do with children, okay? Just such a disgrace. And I'm bringing this up because here's why. Because yesterday, Pritzker in Illinois announced a new DCFS director. This is Heidi Mueller. Yeah, so she's like the 13th director in 14 years. There's no way this system is broken and continues to stay broken and get worse over time unless it's directly deliberate, okay? I know people think that's so hard to believe. No, it's not. Because the very people that will always head it up, I mean, Pritzker put Drag Time Story Hour in the classroom. If you think he cares about kids or is going to put somebody in charge of DCFS that's going to make some difference, think again. We've seen this number for years. Every director, even if they go in wanting to care, they'll usually, people that work in that system will leave because they realize, no, they don't have good intentions for these kids. They don't. And everybody wants to blame the workers, and I'm not saying they're not responsible in some ways, but it's the top. It's your governors. It's your Illinois legislatures. They cover for this shit. This is why the DCFS hospital that I worked at, all of the scumbag politicians were on the board of that hospital, along with Chicago Tribune scumbags. Yeah, Pat Devine, head of Chicago Tribune, and then the nun that ran the place. She still runs Maryville Academy. She was from juvenile justice. This one's from juvenile justice. Barack Obama and Bill Ayers were tied to juvenile justice. Yeah, of all people to let go exploring the juvenile system, they let Ayers, who spent a year observing the Cook County Temporary Juvenile Detention Center in Chicago. And then he's gone on to speak about this, and these people give him some sort of platform. Look, he's a terrorist. He hates America. If you want to be stupid enough to listen to garbage like that, well, then you probably are the type that would vote for Obama, too. The juvenile justice system was founded by Chicago reformer Jane Addams, who advocated the establishment of a separate court system for children, which would act like a kind and just parent for children in crisis. No, we have no idea what goes on in that court system, but this is what they do. Nurses aren't allowed to see the records of any DCFS wards. They hide them. And they say that it's because of privacy reasons. No, they hide them because they know that they're putting these kids in one trauma after another. That's the only reason you hide it. And I had a former police officer that had retired. She was a retired police officer that went to work for the system, and she quit right on the spot when she had brought me this kid that, well, Northwestern ended up getting rid of 24 hours later. That's how much they cared. But this officer lost her mind, and I was just listening to her vent. She's like, "Here, I'll let you see all of his stuff." And one trauma after another. She said, "We're not supposed to let people see that." I said, "Yeah, I know." Because it's because they don't want, because it might be a red flag to healthcare workers that, yeah, these kids are being put in one abusive home after another abusive situation. So the kids that are juveniles should be they should be under the regular court system. There shouldn't be a juvenile court. But when you get the Obamas, when you get the Bill Ayers, when you get the Pritzkers, when you get University of Illinois Chicago, you get all these scumbags, okay, that are always the people controlling it, then they will make separate court systems. They'll come up with a bunch of bullshit excuses why to do it. But the problem is there's no transparency. You don't know what's going on with those kids. But I've seen what a nun where I worked at, she came out of juvenile justice. She shouldn't even be a nun. She should burn her habit as far as I'm concerned, of what she allowed a chief nursing officer to do. But again, I digress. So I can't tell you a whole lot about her, but she's from juvenile justice. So it won't be any different. But when I was looking into this, I found this woman, Andrea Durbin. Let me tell you about her. I'm sure that I cannot find a direct link to Dick Durbin, but come on. So I can't find anything about her personal background. Andrea Durbin is the chief executive officer at Illinois Collaboration on Youth based in Chicago. Previously, Andrea was the chief executive officer at State of Illinois Office of the Auditor General and held positions at Morgan Park Academy Alliance for Strong Families and Communities. Andrea received a bachelor's degree from Northwestern University and a master's degree from the University of Chicago. And this is basically the history of the Illinois Collaboration on Youth based in Chicago, Illinois. So all of this, associations and foundations and the merging, you can see how it says the Child Care Association of Illinois founded, and then the Illinois Collaboration when it was founded, and then they merged, and that's what they want, get everything under one umbrella, and then there's these few people controlling it, and all of this is tied to the DCFS wards and is tied to juvenile justice, and everybody running it, they just shouldn't be they're not going to do anything different, and it's a crisis, because it's gone on for too long. This was, what was it, Wall Street Journal, maybe, I forget. Obama and Ayers pushed radicalism on schools. They've had control over the system. I'm not saying DCFS wasn't corrupt before them, but Bill Ayers has been there a long time. He's not a good person. These people have put children in danger.